Black Friday edition for you, an NFL draft special of the segments we've done on the New England Patriots. Hope you're having a great Thanksgiving. Wanted to give the crew a day off. So here are the next 45 minutes, the best of our draft coverage for what the Patriots should be doing in 2025.
I'm going to get this started hot with some offensive line talk. And I know my guy, George, loves talking offensive line.
Wake me up when you guys are done.
But on a serious note, if there's one thing that needs to be fixed in New England, it's the offensive line.
Yes.
And there's a guy playing this weekend against one of, they're not quite what we thought they might be coming into the season, but offensive tackle Will Campbell out of LSU is a dude, and he is playing the Alabama Crimson Tide this weekend. Big weekend for him, for the draft, for the Patriots, to see whether or not they want to bring this guy in. He's going to be an early first-round pick. Mm-hmm. Do the Patriots really want to lean that way? I'll get more into it, but I'll give you a little scouting report on Will Campbell because the strengths, there's a ton of them. 6'6", 325 pounds. Technically, he might be the best prospect we've seen in a couple of years. He's not the biggest, obviously, but he rarely makes mistakes. Fluid lower half helps him mirror speed rushers. That's scout talk, but he fits the scheme that the Patriots run, outside zone. If you're running the ball, you want a tackle who's athletic, who can get out in space and make those blocks on cornerbacks, safeties, linebackers, whatever it might be. He can do that, and I think he does that better than anybody else in this class. And then the big thing with Will Campbell, the stuff that everybody touts about him and that they have since he came in as a freshman and started immediately at LSU, which is pretty ridiculous, is the personality. They gave him the number 7 patch, which if you know anything about the Tigers, they give that to the best playmaker from the state of Louisiana. He plays tackle. Yeah, he plays offensive tackle, but he's their best playmaker, and they knew it from the jump. Like I said, he started as a freshman. And if you've seen the video of him after they beat Ole Miss, he had about 80 pass blocking snaps in that game, didn't give up a single pressure. In that video, I can't repeat what he said because we'll get thrown off the air, but this guy's awesome. The personality, the leadership standpoint that he brings to the table, a ton of really great stuff. On the flip side, the weaknesses.
Yep.
He's got just about every red flag that you worry about when you're bringing an offensive tackle into the NFL in that transition from college football to the NFL. Short arms. Mm-hmm. His base it's pretty skinny. He doesn't have a great anchor. Can he fit into multiple systems? You don't really know. So this is a guy that if you're going to bring him in the first round, number 3 pick, let's say, number 2 pick, number 1 if you're picking that high, he's a guy where you might have to transition him to guard. And we saw it a couple years ago when the Patriots took a guard in the first round, and it was a Shaq show, as Travis would say. So a lot of strengths, a lot of weaknesses. This is a guy that I'm going to be watching every week moving forward because I think there's a big disparity between where he should be drafted versus where he might actually end up going.
I love the sigh from George. That was my favorite part.
Because where they are, they need a left tackle immediate. And they're going to do this through the draft, which is a smart general manager move. You get a good left tackle and cost control. And him matching up this weekend with LT Overton, John Marion Latham, those are 2 very good edge rushers, especially Overton.
It's Alabama.
Alabama. Exactly.
It's Alabama.
Alabama edge rusher going to be elite.
Right.
But he's right in pointing out the short arms. I had Matt Miller on about a month back, and talking about the 2 tackles, that was a red flag on Will Campbell, was his shorter arms. Now, he does have, at this point, this Saturday will be his 38th career start. To be a true freshman starting at LSU, that's great football experience.
Yeah.
Leverage isn't great. The footwork doesn't exactly cover up that lack of length that he has at his arms. And he does have good hand placement. He is in a pass-heavy offense. There's a goods, there's a bads. Trav, the important thing, and Keagan, the important thing, if you're going number 1 overall, you're not picking a guard. You need to pick a tackle. And I think that's the best thing you point out about Will Campbell on that. Yeah, it's a guy that needs to protect Drake May.
Right. And one quick thing just in terms of those red flags that I talked about, it very well could go the other way. It could be the fact that, this guy played in the SEC. He's playing against the Alabamas of the world, the Ole Misses, these top flight edge rushers that are coming out of the draft every year. And I think he has 4 pressures allowed this season through 9 games.
Yeah.
The guy is absurd. So he very well could just step into the NFL and be a dude right away. But the problem with these red flags is that when they pop up, teams will either pass right over them because they see stars in their eyes, they love the way this guy leads, whatever, and then he comes in, they got to move him to guard, or they flag him, They don't take him. They either trade back, they take a different tackle, or they take a different position entirely, and then he's a 9-year All-Pro, and he ends up walking into the Hall of Fame.
So Patriots.
A very volatile player, Will Campbell.
Yeah, and especially they're going to be picking top 3, possibly top 2.
Yeah.
We'll see when the board is set, space is cleared. Everyone has their own first-round draft pick after the trade deadline. It's the first time it's happened in a long time in the NFL. But we'll see after the season what happens with first. If the Patriots want to trade back but stay in the top 10, they need to hit because, again, everything rotates around Drake May. And, Trav, everything you pointed out of you want to see him have a long career, part of that is not just him sliding.
Yeah.
It's also me protecting his blind side. Someone else I'm going to say to watch for Saturday, it's Kelvin Banks of Texas.
That's right.
And similar stature. He's only 6'4", but he has longer arms. And we know Elliot Wolf loves long arms for his offensive tackles. And he's athletic enough with his feet to make up for that lack of size. He could be a good pulling tackle where motion at the snap is very important in today's NFL, especially when you have an athletic quarterback like Drake May.
Maybe not New England, but...
Maybe not New England, but hey, get a new offensive coordinator in there.
Right.
Motion at the snap will be important, which are glimpses, and then it goes away. Great fluidity. Again, mirroring edge rushers is important. Just you want to get your guy enough time. You don't have to stop them, but can you keep them from getting to the quarterback in under 2.7 seconds? That's the goal. You point out Will Campbell's production, 307 pass block snaps for Kelvin Banks this season, 1 sack, 3 pressures allowed. Blocking for a Quinn Ewers, who isn't the most athletic, or an Arch Manning, who's very athletic, but he's pass blocking for 2 different types of quarterbacks. And the latter, an Arch, mirrors what a Drake May can be. He's matched up with Florida. Tyreek Saps, George Grum's not great. They're not NFL guys, but they're good pass rushers. Nonetheless, you watch him and just keep your eye for the left tackle for Texas because, in my opinion, he should be the left tackle for the Patriots.
Well, let me ask you both this because, I don't participate in this offensive line talk. I defer to you guys. Next episode, when we start breaking down wide receivers, running backs, things of this nature.
I sprinkled one in there for you, Trav. I got one this week.
This from what I'm taking away.
Yeah.
Is Banks the safer pick and Campbell has a higher ceiling, a little more risk? That's what I'm hearing in both of your breakdowns.
I think they have a very similar ceiling. Kelvin Banks has a higher floor.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
And that's what's important. There's the hit rate on offensive tackles is very high.
Yeah.
But that's a thing with Kelvin Banks. I didn't bring up him being a guard once. If there's even the fact that you could possibly be a guard, that's what would turn me off if I'm the Patriots.
Okay. Right.
And again, we'll see how the board falls. Like the Saints need offensive linemen. They also need a quarterback.
Yeah.
The Panthers need a quarterback. They'll be picking up there.
Right.
The Giants have their offensive line sorted out. They need a quarterback. That's what's important. And how far they trade back, you want to be in the perfect spot if you want to get value. You don't want to be stuck with Will Campbell, in my opinion.
Okay.
But they both have a high ceiling, and I wouldn't hate either. There's the preference. Kelvin Banks is the guy.
Okay. And with these two guys specifically, one of the things is it's what you value. Because Will Campbell's going to be a good player. It's just where is he going to play? Is he going to play at left tackle or is he going to have to move into guard?
Yeah.
But you're going to guarantee yourself a damn good offensive lineman out of him. With Kelvin Banks, there is, you say a higher floor, but that floor could still be Trent Brown, but maybe a little bit smaller.
Right.
And are you spending the number 3 pick on Trent Brown, but smaller? Because that's kind of what Trent Brown was just a behemoth. And Kelvin Banks isn't that. So what do you value? Do you want make sure you're getting a good player, or do you want to make sure you're getting an offensive tackle and a guy who could be there for the long haul?
Yeah, and a guy that I like with Kelvin Banks too, he's good at getting to the second level. He's flexible to get downfield, helps a lot with the run game, and we see how bad the Patriots are in the run game as well. I know we're talking draft right now. Make sure to check out the latest episode of Hold My Banner. Wherever you get your podcast, it's everything Celtics you need. That is Hold My Banner, hosted by Travis Thomas, hosted by Ante Campbell. Great time right now to be a Celtics fan to the start they're off to, but also they'll be talking as well. You know it. What is up with Jaylen Brown and that hip, but also how did Jason Tatum look against the Warriors in that rematch? That's wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Prime, and on Nesson's YouTube page as well. Trav, I wasn't going to bring Keagan on without helping you. Keegs, who's a receiver you want to watch? I got you, bro. I got you.
I told you I had you, Trav. It's not one of the big names, though.
But there we go.
He's a damn good receiver, and he's a really fun player to watch. Wide receiver Ricky White out of UNLV.
Okay.
I'm just going to bring one quick stat to you, Trav.
All right.
4 punt blocks in the last 2 years, 3 of them in the first 3 weeks of this season. He's a game changer. This is a guy who can come in immediately and contribute. Is he going to be your number 1 wide receiver? Maybe not. 6'1", 190 pounds, average size, but he's versatile. This is an XYZ kind of guy. You can put him in the slot. You can put him outside. You want him running that backside slant in the red zone. He can do that too. He can do a little bit of everything in an offense. And is he like a Marcus Jones where you just throw him the ball and let him run around like we did a couple years ago here in New England? No, probably not. But he's a guy who you can put at any position on the offense, and you can trust that he's going to give you a good route. He's going to get open, and he's going to, at times, break one open. So really fun player to watch. Maybe not a guy who's going to get drafted in the first, second, or third round, but a day 3 pick who can bring value on special teams. And my brain has been brainwashed by Bill Belichick because I saw this guy, and I was like, oh, Bill's going to love him. Bill's working for Underdog Fantasy at this point. So, unfortunately, maybe one suitor is gone, but I know somebody in the NFL is going to love him, and a lot of guys in that building at One Patriot Place who learned from Bill Belichick and might value these things more than other teams.
I think it's important. You say he's 6'1", 190. Elliott Wolf's profile is a 6 foot, 200+ pound receiver. You put weight on him, and this is a guy that splits time between 65% lining up out wide, 35% in the slot. He's good down the middle. He's good deep down the field too, especially left middle part of the field. You want receivers over the middle because that's Drake May's favorite place to throw the ball. But a guy like him with his versatility, and he's bigger, you hear a speedster, you hear someone like that, I'm wondering, well, they have Pop Douglas, so they need another? No, he's a complementary piece. And Trav, look, this draft, and to our listeners too, but as you can tell, I always have to talk Trav into listen, this is the plan of the draft. This is the vision. The Patriots draft will go tackle in the first, playmaker in the second, possibly playmaker again in the third, or edge or corner. I think they need to walk away with 3 playmakers in this. If it's 2 receivers and a tight end, receiver, running back, tight end. If it's 3 receivers, I don't care. They need to accrue bodies and figure out who works because that receiving room is really bad. You're not bringing Tyquan Thornton back. You're not bringing KJ Osborne back, but you need immediate impact guys. And a value pick like a Ricky White, if he could be on there, get you 5 catches a game, can get you 40 yards, can be a consistent chain mover at that floor, and be a contributor on special teams where they need help as well, as we've seen, that could be a big ad. I like that pick, Keagan. Never heard of him before until you texted me about him, and I do like what I see from Ricky White at UNLV. Think
about what Kayshon Boutte has brought to the table in year 2. Obviously, his rookie year struggles, but he's just been a dependable receiver who they've thrown around in a bunch of different spots. You can use more than just one of those guys. And with the added special teams value, I know no one else in the world probably, it's definitely in this room, cares about it.
No.
But
I do.
It's a big thing that these teams value because you need to fill out those special team spots.
It's just Ebony and Ivory, Trav and I.
Yeah, I need a game breaker.
I don't care about special
I don't care, man.
I'll be honest.
What's his 40?
Who's your guy?
You could draft a whole offensive line. I'm good with that. But you better overspend and get some receivers in here.
Fine.
I'm fine with that plan.
Yes. I wanted them to trade for T. Higgins.
I'm good with that.
I wanted that to happen. They didn't do it.
They also tried, and these guys, for whatever reason, just uninterested. So
we've talked about it. It's a conversation I'll never go. They've tried. They tried hard. Brandon Ayuk was using them.
Yeah.
The Calvin Ridley one, I'm not saying he would have solved everything, but I would have liked to see more pursuit of a true number one in this offense, given this roster.
Right.
Like a Hollywood Brown. I know he was injured, but he would have helped in development, and maybe that's a guy you keep and extend, and he would have been a good 2, and then everyone falls into place after you could draft a 1 in this draft. Same thing with the Jonah Williams. Yes, you need a left tackle. He would have been a good left tackle. He got injured with Arizona, but you never know what could happen if he's in New England. Trav, I know you're all about Luther Burden at Missouri, bro.
I like him.
If the Patriots did right in picking past tackle talent, then Luther Burden would be in the discussion. I would give you that. But he's going to go too high, and he's going to be gone by the time they're picking receivers.
Pretty much all the guys I like, I think, will be gone. I think Burden will be gone. I like Travis Hunter. If you have a conversation with him and say, are you a wide receiver in the NFL? We're not going to play the game here. Do you want to be a corner or a wide receiver? Not to say we can't get you some packages for both, but you're not going to do this full-time nonsense you're doing in Boulder. If he says I'm a wide receiver, I buy it. The kid is special. I like him as well. I just want game-breaking wide receivers. That's what Burden is. That's what Travis Hunter is. I like that kid in Oregon, Evan Stewart as well. Not as game breaker as those other 2, but great hands, great route runner. You just need guys who can break a game open. That's what the Patriots lack right now, and these are all dudes I'm interested in.
If I told you the Patriots could draft Garrett Wilson, like literally just add Garrett Wilson in the offseason, what would you say?
Sign me up.
That's Travis Hunter if he's a wide receiver.
Right.
But
Sign
he's going to
up.
go way too high. But I'm with you in that all the way.
We'll say, I think this is something that Trav's going to like. One of the things about this offensive tackle class is it might not be high end like we've seen in the past, but it's deep. So you can make the decision that maybe we'll just draft Travis Hunter and we'll figure out the tackle thing in the second round.
Sure.
It's risky, You've already tried that kind of, and it doesn't look like it's working out too well.
Yeah.
But
He's a
Travis
game breaker.
Hunter, he's the kind of player that you would be willing to risk the number one pick and say, give me a cornerback and a receiver with this one pick, and we'll get the tackle in the second round.
Absolutely.
Yeah, don't sleep on Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. But that's, again, how does a board fall, what he's projected at.
Right.
And then that can happen. A Luther Burden, a Travis Hunter, if you are very confident. And this is when I would like to see Ellie Wolf get aggressive. Trade back into the first. Don't leave it up for chance. Trade away a second, a future one. I don't care. And get your tackle now. Reach for Josh Simmons, but if you would have taken him in the second anyway, but you get him end of the first and everything falls, you get your tackle, you get your receiver, you have your quarterback.
This guy coming off an injury, you can take advantage of stuff like that.
That is true.
That's right.
Let's bring our boy in. He's Keagan Stiefel of Nesson.com. Loves talking draft, loves talking wide receivers. Keegs, how we doing today, my boy?
Good. No beanie. I've learned my lesson.
Great hair day, too.
Thank you. I did it extra special for you
Keagan,
guys.
good job, man.
Appreciate it.
I'm not going to apologize because that's tough love, and that's what you get from us.
5 minutes on Keegs, just going at him.
I don't want to toot my own horn, Keegan. You could just say yes or no. Do I act as a mentor towards you? Am I that mentor role for you?
Yeah.
I pull you aside and say, hey, do this.
George has some great advice. I'll give him that. Has some great advice.
Whether you like it or not, I give you advice.
He does.
And
not an on-camera guy for the most part. I'm a written word kind of guy. George, he'll give me a little advice. Do your hair. Sit up straight. Talk into the microphone.
Speak with your
Don't
chest.
say 4-letter cuss words on the podcast.
I'll tell you to play the game a little bit too.
Yeah, play the game.
I'll give you
shake a
behind
hand, kiss a baby, everyone.
Exactly.
That's right.
And I'll also tell you never wear an effing beanie ever again with a black hoodie. It was a black beanie, black hoodie.
It was a gray hoodie. I want to get ahead of it. It was a gray hoodie.
You look great today, Keeks.
You look good.
Appreciate that, guys.
Growth. Let's talk wide receivers. First, though, after our last video, we appreciate everyone that watched. We appreciate everyone that commented.
Yep.
There are two people I want to shout out. My boy, Tuffy Burton, 1258. How did he name several wide receivers and not talk about McMillan? Dude is the best wide receiver in the draft as a true 6'5" game breaker. That's our biggest need, is a wide receiver room. We have several guys who can play in the slot and play in the Z position. And also Drink Croshow. When it came to wide receivers, how do you guys not even mention Taitaroa McMillan, also T-Mac, a.k.a. Tet McMillan? Guess what? Before I brought those comments up, boys, guess what Keagan texted me? I'm talking McMillan. So we're doing that today.
Also, we have 5 months until the draft. Plenty of time to talk plenty of different players.
What are you, Dame Lillard?
Also,
slow it down.
Yeah.
You're not even wearing a watch.
It's also why
No watch.
none of us spoke about Tate McMillan. He's going to be off the board before the Patriots pick.
Maybe.
Now, free agency can change a lot.
Maybe.
Free agency could change a lot. Maybe some trades, because I don't like the tackles of free agency.
He may be on the board. You don't know.
6'5", 215 pounds, came back to the U of A, which was very exciting for them to bring back, of course, the quarterback they have, and also at the same side with Noah Fafita and Tate McMillan. Keagan, what do you like about the 6'5", 215-pound receiver out of Arizona?
Yeah, you just said it. That's a big-ass dude right there.
It is.
I'd say size 3 times.
It
215. Far and away the most physically imposing receiver in this class, and I think far and away the best wide receiver in this class.
Yeah.
Good long speed. He eats up space, obviously, with those huge legs. Big hands as well. Eats up the ball. Great body control, which is important. That's what you want in a possession receiver, which is obviously what he is. He's not running underneath routes like a slot guy. It's a possession guy. You want him on the outside for the most part. Agility's better than what one might think, because you look at a big guy like that. We saw it in New England a few years ago. N'Keal Harry. It was ugly.
Gross.
But, Tet McMillan, he can move a little bit, and you can rely on him to do more than just the boundary stuff. If you want to throw him in the slot, maybe in the red zone and get him open alongside a tight end, stuff like that. So a lot of different things you can do with him. He can do a lot just on his own with that big body and those hands. But there are a couple cons. The NFL has some big guys too. I don't know if you guys have heard, but National Football League, the best of the best. So the size advantage that he has is going to be diminished at the next level. And there are cornerbacks who don't give a crap how big you are.
That's right.
Stephon Gilmore isn't worried about 6'5" Tet McMillan because he'll bully you.
That's right.
So that's one of the things that you really struggle with, whether or not that's going to carry over to the next level. And then for me, the 3-cone, we'll have to wait and see, obviously, at the combine if he runs it at the combine. But with big receivers, you see it a lot. Other than DK Metcalf, you can pretty much pinpoint whether or not a big body receiver is going to make it in the NFL by their 3-cone. So you got to wait and see on that. You can't really pencil him in as the number 1 wide receiver just yet, but I think he is well on his way to being that guy.
He, at 6'5", 215, you said big hands. He has arrogant hands. And his vacuum hands.
Yeah.
With his massive catch radius, his leaping ability, his great timing at a jump ball, 6'5", 215 with that frame, and he plays to that size. He doesn't play smaller. He plays like he's 6'5". I say arrogant hands because every single ball that comes his way, he clamps it and grabs it and sucks it in out of the air. He doesn't dog any balls to come back to, so he doesn't get undercut on any of his routes, and I think that's a huge strength. He's a smooth mover with the ball in his hands after the catch, too.
Absolutely.
He catches it, he turns up, he gets you yak, which is really important, and he can be a target in all 3 levels. He really is that deep threat. What I would like to see more from him is have a full route tree or a deeper route tree, because what we've seen, and I don't like the excuse of it's what they do at Arizona, because he has a good quarterback in Noah Fafita that can get him the ball, but it's a lot of go balls and it's hitches. I want more slants. I want more digs, and he needs to be better at his release at the line of scrimmage, because as you said, Keagan, at that big frame, that guys, you have a bigger zone for guys to get your hands on you.
Yep.
How do you fight it off? The way he fills out the frame, he reminds me of Mike Evans coming out of Texas A&M. His pro comp, though, it's a Drake London. The same way you see Drake London on jump balls. He can be really good. He will be a day 1 starter. I think it'll take him a season to break through, though. And that's my thing with Tate McMillan. But he's going to be great wherever he goes, because just what he does in the red zone. Watch him against Travis Hunter in 2023, not even this season. Now, Travis Hunter won that game, but there was a red zone target. McMillan had a touchdown in the red zone, and Travis Hunter didn't have a shot. And Travis Hunter is one of the best. He could be a number 1 overall pick out of corner, which has never been done, because he's that good. McMillan, for him to have success around him, I think it says a lot about him.
Yeah, listen, I'm at the point where I just want a game breaker, a game changer. I don't know if this kid is it. I understand the size, luxury, if you will, but you have to be, in general, I think, a good receiving core to get a big physical wide receiver to complement what you already have. You ain't got a damn thing here. So although I understand the size being beneficial, I'd much rather I'll take a chance on a smaller guy if he's a game breaker. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Now, in years to come, you could say, okay, our wide receiving core is actually good now, and we can add some size to this. But if he's not a game changer or a game breaker or has that home run hitting ability, I ain't interested. I don't give a damn who he is or what Tuffy1876 said. Like, I need somebody in here who can make some plays and break a game open. If this kid can do it, then the size is a benefit. But I'm not picking him just because of the size. I need game-changing ability first and foremost.
I will say, to Travis's point, you think about the wide receivers you put around these big body guys, and the 2 that come to mind, Drake London, like George said, and a Christian Watson in Green Bay. Who are around those two guys?
Underneath.
Smaller, underneath receivers, the Ray McLeods of the world.
The Darnell Moonies.
The
slashers.
What do the Patriots have? They've got those guys. They got Pop Douglas, and I would put him in the Ray McLeod.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's not a real number 2. That's a slot receiver who you have to scheme him open.
Yep.
But behind that, I mean, Kendrick Bourne is a guy who, despite what we've seen in the last few weeks, he can be a guy who can play next to those big body receivers and bring together a group. Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, we'll see about guys like that. But I do think they've got the bones of a core that can welcome in a Tate McMillan and find success early.
It would be, what do they do at the tackle spot?
Yeah.
And that's what it all comes down to. As our boy Dripsaw Killa commented, no tackle we're taking in the top 10, but if you were taken at the end of the first round, if there isn't a good receiver to be acquired by free agency or trade, the selection is no-brainer. It has to be McMillan. I see the argument. The way I look at this wide receiver draft, though, and I'm not like, the Patriots have so many needs. I don't want value. I want you to get guys that you love, and I want you to get the guy you want. When you scout him, and it's going to be a day 1 starter. Yeah. If Brian Thomas Jr. was in this draft, he's wide receiver 1. He was taken 23rd in last year's draft. Yeah. That's how this draft is sizing up right now. It's not the same wide receiver or tackle draft like we saw last season. Who's someone else you got for us, Keegs?
Another wide receiver. We're talking wideout today.
Yeah.
Emeka Ibuka, who is a guy who has just posted every single year, 4 straight years at Ohio State. He's going to end up being Ohio State's all-time leading receiver.
And that's saying something.
Think about the guys that have come through Ohio State, from Chris Carter to Jeremiah Smith next in line. Emeka Egbuka is the best of the best in terms of longevity and being able to post year after year. So that's one thing, being able to post at the collegiate level. But he also has some traits. Functionally, his play strength is unbelievable. I would say it's better than a guy like Ted McMillan, despite the size difference. 6'1", 205. Doesn't jump off the page, but he's a strong-ass receiver, and he moves really well with the ball in his hands. He likes to run through people, not around them. Best blocking wide receiver in the country, and I say that not in the draft, in the country.
You don't play at Ohio State if you don't block.
Exactly. That's Ohio State for, coming from a guy who watches every single Ohio State game. You get angry with how much they run the ball, but that's their identity. They run the ball, and if you want to play, like George said, you got to be able to block. So does that really well. Short area quickness through the roof. These are all the things you look for, right? You're really excited about a guy like that. But the one thing is, he's a slot receiver. Mm-hmm. And what do the Patriots have?
Pop Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, KJ Osborne won't be back.
I'm not interested.
Redundant.
This is what I'm saying. And a lot of these Ohio State wide receivers in recent years, hell, Keeks, outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., who's a freak, okay? He's from planet Krypton. But outside of him, like Smith and Jigba, all these guys, they're slot guys. I'm not taking anything away from them, but like
they're good slot guys.
They're good. They're very good slot guys. But I'm telling you, like I need who can take the top off. Who can I throw? Here's a name, right? Look at Xavier Worthy with the Chiefs. This is a great example of this.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers, too, to a certain extent, of this is a smaller dude. He's clearly not some every down wide receiver you could throw to every time. I don't want to call him a gadget dude. That feels kind of disrespectful. But, like, they are game breakers.
Yeah.
And they do. There are games. They take over games. That's what I'm looking for. Again, I'm not interested. I don't want another slot guy. I don't care that he's from Ohio State. He's also had some injury issues, too. You got to watch out for.
Yeah. To me, the game breaker is Tate McMillan. Until I know what Travis Hunter is going to be, it's Tate McMillan. Luther Burden is a slot guy.
Yeah.
He's
a game breaker, though.
He's like a Deebo Samuel, not as thick.
Yeah.
He's like a Jamar Chase after the catch.
Yep.
Not a game breaker, though. That's a slot guy.
He's a game breaker because you can move him around, George.
Yeah.
I'll give him that.
He's consistent.
He's versatile. You can move him around.
Yep.
You got to have a creative play caller. Okay. Yeah. I mean, can we table that conversation for another time? But if you have a creative play caller that can move Burden around, he's on my list. I'm a big fan of his. He's not even having a great season.
Well, their quarterback situation.
Oh, their quarterback situation is terrible.
He loves run blocking. He buys in. He kicks guys' asses.
And I'll tell you what, with him having a terrible quarterback and not putting up great numbers, I think it's more realistic that he could get to the Patriots.
No.
It's more realistic. He's going to drop.
But so Tate McMillan is Drake London. Luther Burden is Randall Cobb. And that's a really big pick to use on a Randall Cobb.
I think he's better than Randall Cobb.
I think he's a Randall Cobb. I think that's his usage. His speed isn't that elite where he gets that separation down the field. That's my thing. This is a late round. This is a draft prospect. I want to shout out my boy Eric Uper Patriots because he commented, what about Jalen Royals? 6 foot, 205. With Utah State.
Yep.
Now, he went to Georgia Military Academy. If you are a JUCO product, you have my attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there's no dog like a dog that comes out of JUCO football. Late bloomer, wasn't great with his grades, and that's why he ended up at GMI, but now he's at Utah State. Track speed, thick frame. That's a 4.3 40 guy, just 6 foot, 205. Mm-hmm. Good in and out breaking ability, strong hands, can leap and get up for it. He plays bigger than he is. So Christian Watson, who's 6'4", 6'5", he plays like he's 6'1".
Yeah.
Jalen Royal, who's 6 foot, he plays like he's 6'3", which I love. Mm-hmm. He had 7 50-plus yard touchdown catches in 2023. He's great at tracking deep balls. He's good in the open field. Struggles against press and physical play at the line of scrimmage. Route tree needs to grow. He is a project. And he could have drops over the middle of the field. Dontavian Wicks. Day 3 pick, raw athlete, 5th, 6th round guy. With a deep threat being his main game, but something you have to work on. He's primarily like an outside X. He's not great for the Patriots. You know who? An offense that needs a wide receiver too. But hey, they have their one. New York Giants. You'd have a Malik Neighbors, you have Wan'Dale Robinson, a scat guy over the middle. Then you'll have a Jalen Royals who can work. again, man, if the Patriots just did better in past drafts at least and had a dude, Jalen Royals in the 5th round. Now, we can see what they do in the 2nd if they get a guy like a Trey Harris. We've said it. They need a double dip in weapons. They need a triple dip in weapons. You get a Trey Harris and a Jalen Royals, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it how you're filling out this room. They would still need an elite wide receiver 1, but those are big bodies.
Yeah.
So I like Burden, but that's where I go. Keeks, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that's kind of the overall problem with the Patriots in this draft, where you need a tackle, right? You need a number 1 wide receiver. There aren't many of those guys.
No.
And especially where you'll be picking, there might not be any worthy of the number 1, 2, 3, 4 pick. If you fall a little bit into the middle of the 1st round, you can justify taking, the guys we talked about last week, a Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks. But really looking at this draft, you're thinking they need to find a superstar early. That's what you need with one of those premium picks. And then you can draft one of these guys that we've talked about today, maybe at the top of the 2nd round if any of them slip.
Maybe.
And there's a guy, I think you're going to talk about him, Trav.
Well,
that's worth that top pick.
Because I agree with you in theory, right? But if you're willing to use that top pick, let's call it top 5, wherever it is, on receiver, Travis Hunter is the answer to the question. Okay?
Garrett Wilson.
He is literally the answer to the question.
Yeah.
My only concern with him, well, actually, there's several. Number 1, we got to have a conversation about usage rate. Because if I'm drafting you and I'm the Patriots, I have a need for both. I could play you at corner, but I need you. I need you
at wide receiver.
At wide receiver.
Yeah.
So we got to have a combo. I think this kid mentally believes he could do exactly what he's doing now in Colorado in the NFL, and maybe he can. But I don't know if any NFL team's going to be interested in that. Let's just be honest about it. Pick a lane, kid.
Every team's going to have a plan.
And every team has a plan, and it seems to me, you both, please, I defer, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me that most teams are evaluating him as the best corner in this draft. Okay, but what does the kid want? Because if I'm going to use a top 5 pick on him as a wide receiver, he's got to want to do that. And then maybe I have some cornerback packages from him, not the other way around, where he's a corner and you get some wide receiver packages. Hell no. If he comes to New England, he's my wide receiver. The other concern I have is Dion. I mean, Dion's already telling you, my son ain't going to X, Y, and Z. Travis Hunter ain't going to X, Y, Z. Okay, so now this could be some noise that I don't need to deal with. Not to go all Belichick on you, but the last thing I want to do is spend a top 5 pick on a kid where Dion's loud ass is saying, he ain't going there. Tom Brady ain't walking through that door. I don't need it. I don't want it. I won't draft him. So I need a couple of those things cleared up. What does this kid want to do in the league in terms of position?
Yeah.
Because if it's both, I might be out on that too. I'm going to tell him, listen, I need you a wide receiver. Do you have a problem with that? And playing some corner? If he's like, no, I want to do both, I'm out. If I got to deal with Dion, I'm jumping on the phone with Prime immediately. I'm thinking about drafting this kid. Do we have a problem? If Prime gives me spicy mouth, I'm out, okay? If both of those boxes can be checked, Travis Hunter's like, bro, I'll play wherever you want. And Dion's like, yeah, I don't care. Done. I'm taking him.
It's what's great too about him is that he was asked like straight up on College Game Day, would he like to play more? He's like, all I know is playing both. His Pop Warner days, he just played both sides. You're like, but how do you practice? He's like, whatever the ones are, that's what I'm with. We usually have first team offense against second team defense, first team defense, second, like how it goes. He's like, that's what I rep with. It's insane to me.
He finds the end zone too, George.
He does.
You know,
I am not saying it lightly. He is Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
I've given you a Randall Cobb, a Dontavian Wicks, a Drake London, and a Garrett Wilson.
Wow. What do you want?
Those last two, well, Garrett Wilson and Drake London, those guys are in a different tier.
Yeah, they
Garrett
are.
Wilson above. It's all about what do you want, what type of guy you want. But Garrett Wilson's a difference maker, and he's a winner on the outside. He's a game breaker, Trav.
Yeah, he is.
If Travis Hunter's down to play ball,
he's got to be down.
And what did we just see between the Ravens and the Bengals? A Bengals with no defense,
Jamar
Chase. Terrible offensive line.
Yeah.
Really good, great, top 3 quarterback in the league.
Yep.
And a wide receiver that kept him in the game and broke that game.
Yeah, he did, man. Gosh, Jamar Chase is ridiculous.
And you're watching that and you see, okay, I see it. What's tough is that you wish a Malik Neighbors or a Marvin Harrison Jr. or a BTJ was in this draft because it makes it a no-brainer. I don't know what Travis Hunter wants.
That's fair.
To mock him and have him as a corner, that's asinine. if you're taking him with a premier pick, he's a wide receiver too.
I agree.
So I hear what you're saying.
He can do it all. I'm not saying he can't.
Yeah.
But I would want, if I'm drafting him to the Patriots, I need you to focus on receiver the most. That's all.
Yeah.
I know, like, we're going to bury this conversation over the next few months, just talking about Travis Hunter, because they will be in the conversation to draft him. The one thing I'll say is, if you have a top 5 pick, you got to take a swing, right? There's no sure thing with a top 5 pick. So if I'm taking a swing, I'm taking a swing on a guy who can play both sides of the ball, and he can do it damn well.
Amen.
I like that.
I don't want to put him in any sort of bucket, because what we've seen from him as a prospect is unlike anything we've ever seen
that's
before.
right.
People will put the Charles Woodson thing on him. Charles Woodson was playing 15 snaps
He
of
was a
offense
corner.
a game.
He had like 30 catches. He had like 30 catches.
Right.
He was a
Travis
corner.
Hunter is an athlete. When they draft him, it'll say the New England Patriots select Travis Hunter, athlete,
Yeah.
University of Colorado.
Facts.
That's what I believe. So if you're going to take him with the top 5
Facts.
pick, you're going to let him, with all the power that you have,
Yes.
you're going to put him in a position to succeed at both positions,
You're
not just
preaching.
one.
You're preaching. And by the way, he may return kicks, because I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
You need every damn
Why not,
thing
right?
here. You need everything. This is why I bring up Prime, because New England's a perfect place for Travis Hunter to go, because they need all of the skill sets he possesses.
Yeah.
There are going to be teams in this league that don't draft the kid because they're like, we just want him to play corner. We just want him whatever it is. New England needs it all.
Right.
But I just don't want to deal with it doesn't seem like Travis Hunter is a diva to me, but his coach absolutely is. And I just don't want to deal with it.
It'd be interesting, like the teams picking top 3. Jaguars, Giants, Titans. One of those 3 doesn't have a need at quarterback.
Right.
But if you're the Jags, I mean, you can trade back and you can still get Travis Hunter. That's a power spot to be in. The Patriots, you know, if they're at 6 right now, that's where they're slotted after the Saints pulled off a shocker of a win.
Yeah.
The Patriots are picking 6th. You're missing out on Tate. You're in that.
He's
you
gonna be
miss
top
Tate
5.
McMillan.
Yeah.
You miss Travis Hunter.
Yep.
But you're right there for a Kelvin Banks, and a Kelvin Banks is a big need.
Yep.
I want them to finish top 3 because I want them to get more assets on the back end.
Me too.
We'll see how it goes. All right, Keegs, my man, appreciate you joining the show. Next time I'll have you on, I'll bring up my Trey Harris argument out of Ole Miss. 6'3", 210. He's a wide receiver too. He's not a 1, but I still love it. All right, let's bring him in. Fun subject. We've been doing it the last 2 weeks. Continues to be an absolute killer with the fans on YouTube. Keagan Stiefel talking NFL draft. Because the Patriots are so bad, we got to do it. Keegs, welcome back, my man.
That's right. I love talking draft with you guys. I love doing it anyway, but having a team that stinks this bad to talk about it's a blessing.
So as I said as we opened, too, I'm texting Keagan. I go, you want to talk edge? I mean, they got 6 pressures and no sacks, or we talk cornerback because it's relevant. He's like, oh, no, we're going to talk cornerbacks on this one. So here's one thing I want to set the table, guys, and this is the way I look at the Patriots cornerback room. Their biggest needs are tackle and wide receiver.
Yep.
Cornerback won't be resolved that early, but there could be guys out there. What I want to point out is Christian Gonzalez, 6'1", Marcus Jones, 5'8", Jonathan Jones, 5'9". And I think those last 2 heights are being generous. Shout out the Short Kings. I want you guys to point out just real quick the top 6 cornerbacks in this draft. Travis Hunter, 6'1". Will Johnson of Michigan, 6'2".
Yeah.
Ben Morrison of Notre Dame, 6 foot.
Yeah.
Siobhan Ravel, 6'3".
Yeah.
Takario Davis, 6'4". Denzel Burke, 6'1". Patrick Surtain, the best corner in football, 6'2". Sauce Gardner, 6'3". Jalen Johnson, 6 foot. Kenyon Mitchell, 6 foot. Jalen Johnson, 5'11". There has to be a type by the Patriots. We're going to get into it. I just want to set the table of I am projecting onto you. If I hear anyone under 6 foot, he got to be a baller, but I don't want anybody that's under 6 foot. And I'm shitting on my Short Kings, but this is where I'm at now, man. I am done with the undersized corners that we've seen get eaten alive week after week by these receivers and constantly picked on. The Patriots need depth in their cornerback room coming into this game. It's never been more adamant and more obvious than after what we saw, what Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp did to them.
Yo, Keeks, he's preaching, but here's the truth, right? Like, I don't even like calling him short. I like to just say vertically challenged.
Thanks, I appreciate it. That's a recovery. Appreciate you guys. Keegs, who you want to bring up? I went on my soapbox there. Sorry to steal your thunder. Are you against what I'm saying? Hey, don't get caught up in height because of these guys, or what are you thinking?
Listen, I love what you're saying about the size thing because I do think there's a big difference between a number 1, top level cornerback versus a guy who can contribute in your cornerback room.
Which they have with the Joneses,
Right.
right? Let's say it. Let's say it. Size matters. I had to. Okay, let's go.
All right. No, but these top line, like Q or CB1 guys, 6 foot, 6'1" and above.
Yeah.
So everybody I'm bringing to the table today, 6'1" or above.
My man.
It's time for the tall boys. So I'm going to start it off.
I like that.
Damani Jackson, cornerback out of Alabama, a guy I really like, not because of what I've seen on the field, but because of just who he is as a human being. If you know anything about this guy, legit track star. Probably could have been an Olympic sprinter if he wanted to. He's going to be close to setting the record at the combine for the 40. Legit speed, the best speed in the draft at the position. I think that's something the Patriots could use, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan Jones, he's not as fast as he used to be. He used to be that guy in your room where you want to line him up on the Tyreek Hills of the world and erase that side of the field with some safety help. Can't do that anymore. So just based off that alone, love the size, and I love the background. Started out at USC. He transferred into Alabama this year. So 2 premier programs, whether or not USC's lived up to it in the last few years, that's debatable, but 2 top flight programs and just everything that you see from this guy in terms of projectability to the next level. He's a cornerback 1 and you already have that, so he can be the guy on the other side of the field. Really help out your room a lot. And something that I wanted to get into, me and George talked about a little bit earlier, who do you have coaching these guys? And we've had that conversation with Drake May over and over and over again. But in the cornerback room, somebody who doesn't get enough credit for how good he's been at his job over the last decade, Mike Pellegrino, the Patriots cornerback coach.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who they bring in. He's able to get something out of them and elevate the talent that he has in the room. We've seen it with Jonathan Jones. We've seen it with Marcus Jones. Christian Gonzalez, it took him no time at all to be that guy. Would he have been that elsewhere? Probably, right? That's the level of talent he is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they've implemented these cornerbacks into this system to where that's the best part of your defense right now. Is your secondary when they're healthy. So Mike Pellegrino, shout out from me. And when you're talking about bringing guys in to elevate this cornerback room, you can take a risk maybe in the mid-round, late rounds on a project because you have a guy there who's going to elevate them to the next level.
Yeah, Mike Pellegrino, he's been with the Patriots staff since 2015. He's a cornerbacks coach in 2019. We've seen guys like Jack Jones be great. Now, Jack Jones was projected to be a first, second round pick, fell because of off the field stuff. But hey, stepped in, great. Marcus Jones. Working with like Alex Austin as a starting corner last season, at no point was I watching the cornerback play and going, oh my God, that's terrible. Like what he was working with. Then you get into the J.C. Jacksons, an undrafted free agent in 2018, broke out in 2020. Again, Pellegrino got his start in 2019. Jonathan Jones, undrafted free agent, 2016, 2020 is when he came into his own. I'm with you, Keagan, and that's where I do like this room. I think they need to add a free agency. I'll get into that.
Yep.
Right.
They're not going to address cornerback until day 2 or 3, but that's when you trust the coach you have in the building. And as much as I've said and I've given DeMarcus Covington a lot of criticism, Mike Pellegrino has been phenomenal at coaching a cornerback group. So I like you point that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's a guy who's going to continue to do that. You got to worry about him, maybe finding a job elsewhere.
Yeah. That's someone I would pay.
You got to
secondary
right.
coach.
But organizations notice stuff like this to where he might be able to move into a different spot off of cornerbacks out in another organization, get some experience, and then that's when you get to elevate into those DC roles and those head coaching roles. So
Bring him back.
It's all about opportunity for a guy like that.
Oh, yeah. So I like that you brought up your first guy, Damani Jackson with Alabama. Trav, who are you watching, man, in this draft? I know you got some names.
Well, let me first disagree with both of you because I know you're both thinking day 2, day 3 for these positions at corner. Let me say something, and I brought this up to you both before. We have to remember that this team has buku bucks to spend, A, and B, I do think this Drake May kid being able to play changes everything.
Yeah.
I think last offseason, players looked at New England like a wasteland. Like, I'm not going there. Are you kidding? They just ran off another quarterback. They fired the GOAT coach. Like, I'm not going there. Now, all of a sudden, you have Drake May who can play. You have all the money in the world. Look, I would not be shocked at all if they address the glaring weaknesses of this team by spending cash money, baby. I'm talking trenches. I'm talking an edge rusher and an offensive lineman where maybe you could sort of change the mentality to we'll take those things on day 2 and day 3.
Yeah.
How about T. Higgins the other night in a loss on Sunday night. 9 grabs, a $148, and a touchdown. Does he look like a number one option?
Hey, I've been
How's
banging
hell
that
to
drum.
the yeah
We'll see
sound?
if he gets tagged. We'll see what they have to give up.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There's other ways to address
There
some
could
of
be.
these weaknesses. So I say all that to say I'm still living in. They address those weaknesses with the money. Then you could take a corner in that first round. And all of us feel as though they're going to end up in the top 10. Where we'll see. But if you're top 10, I'm going right back to the well I told you at wide receiver. Travis Hunter. And just like I told you, for him to play wide receiver for the Patriots and he could play corner, you could do the reverse. You could draft him. You could have a conversation with the kid. You want to play corner? And then we'll just give you some packages at wide receiver. If he's good with that, Deion signs off of it because he's running the show, then give me Travis Hunter. That'll be my answer in this segment until the end of time, until he's a Patriot. Because guess what? Travis Hunter and Christian Gonzalez together would feed generations. Are you kidding me? I need it injected in my veins.
Keagan, you go.
Listen, I'll never, ever, for as long as we're doing this, be upset about the Patriots drafting Travis Hunter. Never, not once. If they take him with the number 1 pick, I'm going to be round of applause. Well done. You
Same.
made the bold but smart decision in my eyes. So I'm all aboard the Travis Hunter train. I think we should talk about him every week. We'll talk edge rushers next week, possibly. I'll bring up Travis Hunter because he could probably do that too, right? This is a damn good football player. And that's what you should be targeting, just good football players.
Facts.
So I'm all in on the Travis Hunter train. Get him in the red, white, blue. I'm all about it.
Yep.
It's exactly if they go out, and you did say it, Trav, and that's where I agree with it. So let me not be a jerk for once.
Sure.
And go, well, they could franchise him. Let me not try to be the nerd in the room. Okay, let's say T. Higgins is a free agent. All right, you pay him. Is he a wide receiver 1 on 32 teams in the NFL? No, but he's a wide receiver 1 for you.
Hell yeah.
And guess what? When you have T. Higgins and you have a Demario Douglas and a Keyshawn Boutte is something, and you go and get a guy later in the draft, which we've done on this conversation, right? And you get in the red zone or you get on 3rd and short, money downs, you bring in Travis Hunter to run a route because his ball skills are insane. And like you say, on the other end, because this cornerback group is absolutely terrible, and your secondary has been bad outside of Christian Gonzalez. 6'1", needs to put on weight, but his IQ, his fluidity, how smooth he is with his hips, his ball hawking ability, just his ball skills in general, the way he leaps, the way he times it. And you have to talk about how damn well in shape the stamina of this kid is absolutely insane. Where he would never have to leave the field on defense. You would never have to sub him out. And him and Christian Gonzalez can play sideline to sideline. So that is something you go in there, you better have gotten your ish done in free agency, in my opinion, though.
You have to.
Because if you drop the ball in free agency and then you draft Travis Hunter, man, I'm going to have a lot of questions for you. I like that Travis Hunter call. First name I'm going to bring up.
Before we move on.
Go.
I want to pose this question to you guys because I think it's an interesting one. George, I'll start with you. What do you see him as? Do you see him as a cornerback who can also play wide receiver or a wide receiver who can also play cornerback?
I see him as a wide receiver that can also play cornerback. And my thing is, I don't want him at his frame, which is slim, throwing his shoulder into grown men in the NFL, tackling and stopping the run on the edge. Now, you need him in a package. He comes in and locks down a guy. That's fine. I just project him as a wide receiver because I think that's where a team would get better long-term return. But I also am fit. And as I've said it, like Jacksonville's the number 1 overall pick. They go Travis Hunter. Awesome. You have an elite cornerback. And then you have Brian Thomas Jr., who's your wide receiver 1, and then a really, really good wide receiver 2. I don't want him playing corner, but if my biggest worry is, well, he needs to bulk up, awesome. You get him in a weight room in the NFL. And also, if you have the kid like running around less, literally on game day, not playing 1,000 snaps every Saturday or Sunday, playing less, like he will put on and retain weight and he could bulk up. And then if he's just 10 pounds, good weight. 10 pounds of good weight, and I could have a whole different tune about him playing corner. But I want him at receiver. That's just where I project him. I see Garrett Wilson. I just see Garrett Wilson, which to me is what you would want.
Keegs, I see him as prime. I actually think he's very similar to Deion Sanders. I think you put him on his side of the field. You got Christian Gonzalez on the other. I mean, you could have a modern day Legion of Boom here with the Patriots. With those two corners, you get decent safeties. I mean, my God, all of a sudden, who the hell's throwing on the Patriots besides no one? And I say prime because that's how prime could do. He could lock down a side of the field or travel with your best wide receiver. And if he got a pick, it was house call city. That's what Travis Hunter can do. and then you bring him in, package as a wide receiver like Dion used to do.
Yeah.
I would also entertain moving him to returns. I mean, I see, to answer your question, I think this is prime 2.0.
Yeah, and just to throw mine out there, I see him as a corner, and it's for two reasons. Number one, just refinement in terms of the ability to play a position. I think he's a better cornerback. He's just much more refined. I think it's what comes naturally to him. I think the receiver stuff, he still has a little bit of work on. Like, he's got the ball skills we talk about.
Yeah.
The route running's not that great, right? Like, there's a reason why he's going up over 4 guys to catch the ball. It's because he's not getting a ton of separation. There's a reason why he's their gadget guy, right? You're throwing him screens to get him the ball in space. So I think he's just better off as a cornerback. But like George said, in terms of the size, I think this is a guy who you'll see as he gets older. He's super young. He's still 20, right? As he gets older, he's going to be able to retain that weight, like George was talking about. He's going to get bigger. And I think it's going to be a lot easier for him when he gets a little bit bigger to just full-time cornerback. This is what I'm built to be. This is what I'm best at.
Yep.
And then you can find a role for him because it's so much harder to implement a part-time cornerback than it is a part-time wide receiver.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think 2 reasons. Just what he is as a player. He's a cornerback, and then what is easier for the team to do? That's easier. Just you're our number 2 cornerback if it's in New England, and we're going to put you in packages. We're going to find ways to help you succeed. So those are the 2 reasons, but I think it's an interesting conversation because I see both sides.
Yeah, and it's a kid too of, like you said, it's a lot harder to implement that corner because there's so much that goes on with defense. Wide receiver, hey, line up here, run this route. This is where you're ending up, and the ball's going to be there. And he's playing every snap for Colorado on both sides of the ball. It's not a sophisticated offense, but the fact that he could play every snap on both sides of the ball says a lot about his football IQ, his acumen, and just, dude, how detail-oriented and locked in the kid is. You can improve the route running, and that certainly can happen.
Just think about New England, right? You saw it this week. Marcus Jones played a little bit of running back. They needed him for a snap. They threw him out there. Easy, right? Throw him in the huddle, have Drake tell him, this is what you're doing on this play. It works. Not that way defensively, right?
Yep.
Julian Edelman practiced as a cornerback for like 8 weeks before they actually let him play. Troy Brown in 2004 was practicing there in training camp because they knew, if somebody gets hurt, we're going to need an extra guy. So it takes a long time for a wide receiver to be able to go over on the other side of the ball and play defense.
That's true.
So the name I'm going to throw out here, Dalen Everett, cornerback out of Georgia, 3-year starter since he was a freshman, 14 games for a national championship Georgia team. Always one of the best defenses. 6'1", 190, 4.3 speed. Great frame. He's really good at press at the line of scrimmage. Again, starter since he was a freshman. Good tackler because you're not playing at Georgia unless you could do everything. Good feel in zone coverage. I think he has a lot to learn in man. And then here are the red flags I have for him. Stiff and pedal in transition, so he's just not the most fluid. And here's the big ones. Impatient in press, and he bites on double moves. But you know what? The last 2 especially, he's a good athlete. Like, I think the first one can improve. The last 2, this comes back to full circle. Mike Pellegrino can coach it out of you. That's where you trust coaching. If those are my big concerns, but he checks every other box where I've seen him in coverage. He has the side. He has the speed. Obviously, he has the experience as a 3-year starter at Georgia. Georgia. As a freshman, played 14 games. I like everything about this kid. So that's where I go. There's one more. Davison Igbinison, 6'2", 195, 4.3 speed. He started at Ole Miss, now at Ohio State. So that told me he could learn 2 different systems, like your guy, Keegs, at USC first. Really fluid hips, great awareness. He's a physical press corner. But those guys, Everett and Igbinison, those guys are in the picks of early 3rd to midway to the 3rd. I could see them being gone. And I don't know if the Patriots will be taking a corner even that early. Thanks for listening, everyone. This is Foxborough Rush. Have a great Thanksgiving and rest of your weekend. We'll see you guys on Monday.